So, you've decided to start Final Fantasy XIV, and MMORPGs can be quite complex and daunting to get into, so I'm here to help you out. Now, if you haven't bought the game already, I recommend checking out the free trial. With it you can play the base game and the Heavensward expansion, capping out at level 60. Naturally, there are also a few restrictions. I will link to a list of those in the description down below. First things first, you will have to select your data center, also known as servers. This is the most important choice to make when you're trying to play with friends, as you can only interact with players in the same data center. There are a total of 8 data centers: Aether, Primal, and Crystal in North America, Chaos and Light in Europe, Elemental, Gaia, and Mana in Japan. Choose the one closest to you or the ones your friends are on. Now we can create our character. As of January 2021, the time when we're recording this video, there are a total of 8 playable races, all of which have 2 sub-races. Which race you play is completely up to you, and everything is mostly a cosmetic choice. But there is a minimal stat difference between the races and sub-races. Those are very much negligible and not to worry about. First, we have our human-like here. Our elves, the Alizon. The lovely potatoes, Lalafell. Our resident cat girls and boys, the Mikote. The mighty Rogadin. And our scaly friends, the Aura. There are also gender-exclusive Hrothgar and Viera, but you can only play those if you own the Shadowbringers expansion. As a quick note before you start making your character, in this game you can play every single class on one character. There is also very little incentive to make multiple characters next to playing on a different data center, so choose wisely. You can later on change your character race and gender with an item called Fantasia, but you only get one of those for free. If you want to change your looks more than that, you will have to buy them with real money. You can always change your hairstyle, facial features, and tattoos and similar cosmetics features for 2,000 gil, which is the endgame currency, later on in the game. You can also save your appearance data if you want to later on create a new character with the same looks. You will now be asked to choose your birthday and deity patron. These are 100% roleplay decisions and have no impact on gameplay. Next up is choosing your starting class. Small heads up, once a class reaches level 30, they will be referred to as a different name and will be called jobs. As mentioned before, you can swap freely between classes once you reach level 10. More on that later. So this choice will mainly impact in which city-state you start the game. First, let's start with tanks. They're the gladiators, who turn into paladins at level 30 using sword and shields. The marauders, who later on turn into warriors using great axes. Then there's also the Dark Knight and the gunbreakers, who you can pick up later in the game. For the healers, well, if you want to start with a healer, conjurers, who turn into white mages later on, are your only choice for now. There's also the scholar, but they start as an arcanist who's a damage dealer. Later on you can also pick up the astrologian. And well, for the damage dealers, there's the pugilist, who turn into monks using their fists. Lancers, who turn into dragoons, well, using, lances. Archers, who turn into bards using bows. Thaumaturges, who at level 30 turn into black mages using elemental magics. And then there are the arcanists, who are quite special as they branch into 2 different classes. Either they turn into the damage dealing summoners, who fight with magics and the pet they summon, or you turn into a healing scholar, who use healing alongside their fairies. Later on you can also pick up the rogue, who later on turns into the ninja, the samurai, machinist, red mage, or the dancer. Well, as for the city-states, there's 3 different city-states. First, there's the city-state located in the deserts of Fanalan, Ul'dah, located deep in the forest of the Black Shroud, Britannia. And then there's the coastal marine city, Limsa Lominsa. You're bound to your starting area until you reach about level 15 in the main story, but this choice has no further impact than that. Next up we have to choose our worlds, also known as realms in other games. You can play with players from different worlds as long as you're in the same data center, but if you want to join the free company, this game's versions of guilds, you will have to be in the same world. So choose the same world that your friends are on, or choose the worlds with a golden star. Those are preferred worlds on which you get bonus experience. Now it's time to choose your name. This game has a first and last name system. If you have trouble deciding, there's a built-in name generator that goes by your race's naming conventions. And now, it's time to finally start your adventure! Or well, maybe just not yet. These types of queue happen every now and then, and they typically don't take longer than 10 to 20 seconds, so don't worry too much about them. And also, real quick before we start, if you want to change your game's voice cutscene language, you can find that here. I got you, my fellow weebs.
Hey, you. You're finally awake. You were trying to cross the border, right?
After being bombarded with a lot of cutscenes and tutorial quests, you can finally explore the world to your heart's content. But, well, where to start? Well, most of the game is locked behind the MSQ, also known as the main scenario quest. This is the main story of the game and is mandatory to progress, so this should be your #1 priority. The story of Final Fantasy XIV and its expansions, well, mostly its expansions, has been one of my favorite stories of all Final Fantasy games and have left a deep impact on me, so I definitely recommend checking it out. But, well, even if you don't care too much about the story, I'm sorry to let you know know, you still need to do the story quests. You can skip through the cutscenes though. If you ever lose track of your current main scenario quest, there's a small box in the top left corner. You will also see a lot of quests with a small plus on the bottom. These are quests that unlock things, be it content, classes, systems, and other fun things. You should do all of these. Minus, well, class unlocks if you're not interested in those just yet. I'll post a link to everything that can be unlocked through these kind of quests in the description, but if I were to mention a few important ones, it would be My Little Chocobo, which starts at level 20 for the mount system and easier travel. Color Your World, which starts at level 15 and can be found in Western Fanalan for the dyeing system to make the world more colorful. If I Had a Glamour, starting at level 15, found in Western Fanalan for the glamour system to change the way your armor looks, in other games also known as Transmog. Rising to the Challenge, found at level 50 in Limsa Lominsa Upper Decks, for the challenge log to gain more XP on a weekly basis. And Beauty is Only Sculpt Deep, starting level 15, found in the Limsa Lominsa Upper Decks for the Esthetician to change your hairstyle and more for 2000 gil. Then there are also normal side quests, but these are not so important and they can feel quite grindy. There's no real reason to do them unless you want to. Don't let me stop you. Also, every job has their own job quest. These unlock at every 5 levels and will be displayed beneath the main scenario quest box. Please do these as soon as possible. These will not only give you new gear but also new abilities, and at level 30 they will also give you a soul crystal, which will turn your class into a job, which is a absolute must to continue progressing properly. So no ifs and buts, do these the moment you can. Talking about job quests, once you complete your level 10 job quest, you can also start unlocking different classes, including crafters and gatherers. All that being said, if you ever don't know where to go, you can click on your quest or open your journal by pressing J or through the menu and then click map. By now you've probably noticed these blue giant crystals called aetherites. These are fast travel beacons. On the map or in the teleport menu, click on the aetherite you want to travel to, and for a small fee you get there instantly. Well, if this fee is too much for you, you can take the more scenic route and check out chocobo porters. They're similar to taxis and will get you from one place to another faster than walking, and cheaper than fast traveling, but long distances can take quite a while. In cities there are also smaller aetherites called Ethernet shards. These are a fast travel system through different parts of the city, and completely free of charge, so do attune to those as soon as you can. Oh, so it's time for your first fight. Well, skills in Final Fantasy XIV are in a 2.5 second global cooldown, which feels very slow in the early game. So yes, I know the game can be very draggy in the early game, but it will get better, I promise you. And the end game is some of the most fun and compelling content I've done. Well, not even the end game. As soon as you get to the first expansion, it becomes way more interesting. So I do hope you manage to stick through. Once you've progressed through the story, you might be close to your first dungeon. These are cooperative 4-player content and that can be done by in-game matchmaking. So no worries, you don't need a dedicated friend group to help you through everything. Well, if you're not quite sure what to do, that's fine. I will release a more in-depth guide about dungeons soon. Maybe if you're watching this video, it's out already. If it isn't, you can subscribe to the channel to not miss it. But until then, check out the Hall of the Novice by talking to any Smith NPC once you're level 15. It's a small series of challenges that will let you know about the very basics of your role and will reward you with decent gear for your current level. If you're playing a tank, please always do check that your amenity increasing tank stance is on. This is an absolute must, and I don't think they necessarily tell you that, so do check that every single time. And now it's time for some quick tips. The Final Fantasy XIV community is very accepting and understanding towards new players. If you're not sure about something or are doing something for the first time, just ask or let the party know, and they will most likely be very understanding. If you're doing match-made content, don't forget to swap to the party chat so they can properly see your messages. You can step back to where the yellow markers were before the animation of the attack finished. Really, it won't hurt. You can hold X on your keyboard to make only NPCs, enemies, and objects clickable, or if too many people are in your way. You can also do the same on the map by pressing Control to make the aetherites more clickable. Eating food gives you a 3% XP buff, and logging out in sanctuaries gives you an XP boost for the next time you play. If you feel like you need more XP, don't forget to do your daily leveling roulette that unlocks once you have unlocked the second dungeon. It will give you a huge amount of XP. I will post a link to all the daily resets and weekly reset timers in the description. Fates are random world encounters that give you a small chunk of XP for completing, and it will make the grind from level 1 to level 15 to do your first dungeon a lot easier. The hunting log also gives you a nice amount of XP, but sadly, those become fairly obsolete later on. You can summon your chocobo to fight by your side by using Gazal greens. When you have to choose which Grand Company to join, the only difference it makes is the location and the color of the uniform. You can also change it later on, so don't worry too much about this decision. Retainers act as your bank and also your access to sell things on the market board. You can hire 2 for free. Don't forget you can store things in your chocobo saddlebag. Use the recommend gear button to quickly check for new and better gear. If you press the little helmet button, you can hide your headgear. Also, if you have a visor, you can disable it or enable it with the button next to it. Not sure what gear to choose? Strength is for melee classes, dexterity for ranged and physical classes, and for ninjas, intelligence for magic damage dealing healers and mind for healers. If I forgot anything or you want to know anything about a specific topic, do let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also stream on twitch.tv/FFXIV on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Thank you for watching.